Well, good evening, everyone. We're going to let some people jump on here. Oh, they were waiting for us. I see them on. That was quick. Well, I wanted to jump on here tonight simply because, we see a lot of challenges with social media and different things that are happening just in the world of family court. And I have some amazing conversations with amazing people, friends, that I consider friends. And I decided I needed to get Attorney Torri Barkus on the call tonight. I haven't done a Facebook Live in a moment, but I needed to do this because holidays are volatile. The holidays get very intense. There are individuals who aren't seeing their children. They want to see them. I've put it out there. A lot of people say they want to see their children, but they haven't found the right solution. But part of that is you haven't even called me. And that's part of it. Or you haven't called someone like Torri. And so I want to introduce to some of you who do not know her, but many of you who are on my page do. This is Attorney Torri Barkus, and I thank you for coming on my Facebook Live tonight.
Absolutely, Dr. Torri. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
So we're going to jump into this. I'm Dr. Torri J. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation, and we're going to talk about law from a different angle. We're going to talk about the family law situation from conflict resolution and even mindfulness when it comes to being a lawyer and being a client going through a family law case. So I remember you and I sitting down, and we had an amazing conversation about mindfulness. Can you just describe it? I could read it and describe based on what I know, but I know this is like your passion. So can you describe it to those who are watching right now?
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure to do that. I know a lot of people have probably heard about mindfulness, maybe heard a little bit about meditation and things like that. And what we're trying to do is incorporate some of those processes in practice, especially where we desperately need to help without making conflict. Unfortunately, we really need to start with an awareness of what's happening. Otherwise, we're pretty reactive. And I mean, as Dr. Torri mentioned, people tend to put a lot of stuff on that perhaps they shouldn't do, that they may not do if they were in a different frame of mind.
Good one.
And we really need to come to a place of awareness. And it's a big challenge when you're facing something emotional. There's nothing harder than not being able to see your children. There's nothing more painful than that. And when we're in pain, what we want to do is just react to it. We want to push it away. We want to make it go away. And sometimes we just throw it back out there so it's not hurting us. But the things that we do reactively like are not the best things for us. They're not gonna get us need to be. And this is where mindfulness can come into play. I'm not sure if I explained fully or
and I think you did, because it's a breathing, it's a technique, it's a way of being, especially when stress, conflict, anxiety comes into the picture. Because there's no way you're going to get through a family law case without feeling any of that. Heck, I'm not even in the case, and I feel it half the time with the clients. And Torri, I know that's part of this whole mindfulness when it comes to the practice of family law, especially, and then going through these cases. One of my other attorneys, she calls it litigation fatigue. And
yes,
we have to have ways to not just react to it, but be proactive before it even hits. And I believe that's what mindfulness is bringing to the table. It's bringing to the table a way of being, knowing that you're entering into something that will bring stress, that does bring anxiety, and does cause a lot of conflict. What do you, when you see individuals, and I love how you said the fact that some of these people are posting things online that if they were in a different state of mind, they may not post, right?
Right.
And so what do you suggest when you see someone post something online? Do you just cringe and want them to take it down immediately? Or do you just kind of go, well, that's their way of processing? How do you deal with that as an attorney?
Well, as an attorney, I will at times, and I have reached out to clients and said, take that down
Yeah.
now. It is not going to help you.
Yeah.
It's going to be used against you. You're talking about something confidential. There's a lot at play. And sometimes when I read these messages, I can hear the hurt. I can hear the pain.
Yeah.
It comes through loud and clear. And I think people just want to be heard, and people are saying, well, I have the right to be heard. I want people to know what's going on. I want people to unjust and unfair is happening. I really hear people saying is, I want you to know that I'm in pain right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to acknowledge that. And that is a completely natural, understandable human emotion, especially as you pointed out in this situation, that is one of the most painful, one of the worst things you can go through. But rather than do this somewhere online, to me, it's a process, whether it's through a process.
You're going in and out. Hold on. You're going in and out, Attorney Barkus. Like you sound automated. Are you there? Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You sound a little robotic or automated a little bit.
Oh boy.
Hold on. Keep talking. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sometimes Facebook Lives get a little weird. It's okay. Are you there?
Let me know if this is better. But are you able to hear me?
I can hear you now, but I don't know if you were saying something a moment ago.
Okay. No, I was silent because I wasn't sure. If
yes, I can hear you now. I think it's better. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what mindfulness does is it stops this runaway train. When emotions start, they fire up and they keep going. And unfortunately, when you're posting and you're venting, and then other people are venting too and saying, yes, this is horrible. Yes, the courts suck. Yes, lawyers suck. Yes, everybody is terrible. What you're all doing is feeding the same emotions in yourselves. And it may feel better for a second because you're so angry that you're throwing it out, but all you're doing is making it bigger and bigger, as opposed to stopping that runaway train, which while you're going through it, it probably feels, but when proactive and the more you practice at that, the more you can actually stop that runaway train of emotion and make better decisions to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's what I love about it. You know, one of the things that the foundation, the Fatherless Generation Foundation, put into effect recently is a Monday night call called the Men's Room. And the reason we did this is because I was taking on a lot of the stress and the anxiety and the frustration and even the conflict the clients were bringing to the table. I'm an advocate, so I get them to the attorney, and then they want to download all of that on the pro bono attorney. Well, that isn't going to work very well. So we started this online therapy room or coaching room, basically, where a therapist or a life coach happens to be, where you can download all of that stuff. Because it's like Attorney Barkus said, if you're online and you've got all these people who are feeding the beast, then you're going to feel like I can post this again and I'm going to get that instant gratification, but you have no solution. So then you'll post again next week, and then you'll post again the following week. And it still doesn't get you resolution, and it doesn't get you any closer to the solution that you want. It is not rare, or is it strange, that while you're going through a family law case, you feel depressed. You feel like the runaway train. I like that term too. You feel overwhelmed. You feel anxiety, and you have all this anxiousness. You feel anger. Those emotions aren't rare. And it's not to discount who you are and the uniqueness of your case. But what we have to also understand is you need to get help with that. Not saying it's medication. I'm just saying it's someone that you can privately talk with that's offline. And as much as, I advocate and I'm, speaking, I met you through Americans for Shared Parenting and Equal Parenting. I love the work that's being done, but I can tell you that sometimes I see some of the people and some of the posts they're making, and I'm like, whoa, that's going to end up bad when they go to court. And I'm cringing for them.
Right. And it's going to hurt more.
And it's going to hurt more. And then you're going to want to post more because now, because of your post online, they're saying you're harassing the person. And now they're going to draw up a TPO. So now you either have supervised visitations or limited visitation, or your case drags on longer. There's all these implications for some of this stuff. And so when it comes to being mindful, we want you guys to just think about ways to help relieve the stress, even for attorneys who are going to watch this. They have to relieve the stress too, because I don't know, I've dealt with a few attorneys, but I don't know if I know any other practice or, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know if there's anything more stressful than family law because it's so emotional. Is there another practice in law that's more stressful to you, Attorney Barkus?
Well, this is what I've known, is what I've done for 20 years. I mean, I imagine criminal law would be, I imagine your emotions are, when somebody else is feeling emotions, you are breathing. When you have a conversation that's stressful, you feel it is, and that's why your attorney colleague said litigation fatigue.
Yeah.
Your emotion all day long. It has to go. Some lawyers really need this as well. There's a lot of studies right now about lawyers and finally what lawyers don't like to acknowledge, that yes, there is an issue here. There is suffering with it. And that not personally, it affects your ability. If I'm caught in your emotions, help you think, solve for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of that. Or I've seen people who just disconnect and burn out because they simply cannot hold those emotions, because none of us are processing it and finding an effect just in this circle of completely over and over again that's not getting us anywhere. And we need another approach for our own well-being, for your children's sake, for your families.
Right. And when I start seeing the statistics and the numbers surrounding, suicides, concerning people in family law cases, this is why I wanted to do this, especially around this time of year. We got, New Year's Eve coming up tomorrow, New Year's Day. It's another opportunity for a dad to see or not to see their children. And the children are being affected by it as well. So there's still emotions running high, and they will run high well into the new year until they move on to something else. But the holidays are just super intense. If people who are watching, if you go to fathers' rights groups, you will see toll-free numbers for people to call. That's not by accident. This is a real issue and it's a real situation. I said it on my Facebook wall recently. Fathers and their children have a very common bond, and it's pain. And the truth of that pain is it's being manifested in different ways. And some of those ways happen to be the suicide rate, 1 in 8, men. And then we have, out of all suicides that are happening in this nation, 65% of them are fatherless children. What do we say to that? Because we don't know someone, then we're okay with that? You can't be okay with those numbers. And so I want to talk really quickly about conflict resolution. So I also mentioned recently, in order to deal with conflict, sometimes you need to take a conflict resolution course. If the courts tell you to take, a parenting course or a divorce course afterwards, don't cringe, because it's intended to help you overcome some things. And don't go in there blindly acting like this is just something I have to do. Hopefully they will give you the steps on how to deal with conflict. What do you suggest to your clients, or even to anyone watching? How, beyond the mindfulness, like conflict is here, what should they do?
Mm-hmm. One of the things I would encourage people to do is think about, how do you personally de-escalate? I sometimes refer to this as, how do you pause when you're upset, when you're emotionally overloaded?
Mhm.
What do you do that gives you that break? Are you a runner? Are you somebody that goes out and runs? Do you play video games? Do you go clean your house? We all have our pause. We all have something that distracts us from what's going on when we get that overloaded. And I mean, obviously there are some things that may not be as healthy, but let's kind of focus on those things. And sometimes that's a starting point. I think that I think we need to do more than that, because when we pause, we're really just escaping. We're putting it aside. We still haven't dealt with it. But start thinking about how you pause. How do you how do you help yourself feel better? What helps calm you down? Is it a long run? Is it a talk with a friend? And one of the things I would think about is, when you think about your answers, think to yourself, how do I feel? I mean, the people who post on Facebook and share with one another, I encourage that if you leave that conversation feeling more at ease, if you leave that conversation feeling worse, then we have not found your pause. We have not
Mhm.
found the thing that is helping you de-escalate conflict. And the first step towards working on this is finding that part, because we have to stop that runaway train in all of us. We all do it. This is a normal, natural thing. It's a completely normal response to what people are going
Yeah.
through. But in order, and I think about it a lot as an attorney, because for me to help my clients, I need to get you to that pause so that we can start working through this. Because I'm not going to escalate your emotions. I'm not going to let that train keep running, because we're not doing anything effective. And what I want to do is help you. So that to me would be a very, very good step to think about, to discuss, to see. And if you don't have one, I'm going to give you a very simple meditation technique. I'm not a meditation instructor, I'm far from an expert, but this one might be very helpful. Breathe in and out, which is a very easy thing. You do it anyway. Close your eyes. As you breathe, I want you to try to count to 10. Breathe in, count 1. Breathe out, count 2. If 10 is too far, count to 5. Just try it. It's not going to change your life. You're not going to levitate. You're not going to breathe fire. This isn't some hocus pocus thing. But see what it does. See if it brings anything just a little calmer, gives you just a little bit of space from everything that was so intense a moment ago.
And I just did it just for 3 counts. I do that often during my day, right? Because breathing, just, you can feel the endorphins, you can feel your back loosen up, you can feel it go up your neck if you do it, because that's where I hold all my stress. So if you breathe and you feel it somewhere else, that's where your stress is. But for me, when I close my eyes and I breathe, I have to do it during the day, because I hold a lot of mine in my stomach and in my neck area, right? And so I'm learning to just let your stomach relax. We as ladies, we were taught to suck it all in and hold it in. So we look it all in. But when I'm at my desk and I have to get some type of, just reprieve, I have to just let it all hang out and just breathe. Even if you can get 5 minutes of that, it will relieve you. It will bring some relief to your situation. And what Attorney Barkus is talking about is self-care. What is it that you need to do for you that makes you feel good? Is it reading? Is it running? Is it writing? I started taking my journaling very seriously again about a month ago. And in journaling again, I have found myself. And I know some people are like, oh, you lost yourself? I couldn't tell. Trust me. The boldness and the confidence that I carry, that's real, but there's parts of me that had kind of lost myself in certain areas of my life. And I realized through journaling, I had to get me back. And that's where I found it, is in my writing. That's why you see all of these healing series like popping out like crazy. People are like, Torri, what are you doing? I found myself again. And when you do that, that's part of self-care. Oops. So Attorney Barkus, I know.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say that
Oh,
that's an excellent point, because sometimes we're so focused on what's hurting, we're so focused on the problem, that we don't want to stop and exercise this because we're up in that pain. And ironically, the thing you need to do sometimes, rather than charge forward, is stop. And as an attorney and a litigator, that was very hard for me to understand, because you're always charging, you're always moving, you're always on. But when you have those moments of care, when you have those moments where you allow yourself to pause and relax, you find solutions that didn't exist before you did that. And in time with that process, you will find a greater path to get you out of the suffering that you are in. It does
yeah.
exist for you. It's not a one-time thing. It's not, you're not going to close your eyes, and it's not pixie dust, not any of that, but it is a path to that.
And meditation, let me just say this because it's in my heart and in my head to say, unfortunately, people get really caught up in religion or the thought of, oh no, meditation is new age. Bible, a lot of other books, I've read quite a few, they say meditate. So you meditate on what you believe you need to meditate on. Don't get caught up in feeling like you can't do that because that's an issue or that's something. And please, for those who are going through family law cases, one of my suggestions beyond the mindfulness, beyond my group, the men's room, you may need a therapist. You may need a life coach to help you through it, where not only are you breathing, but you're getting solutions to your anxiety, to your litigation fatigue, to your depression, because I see a lot of depressed men online. And this tonight was just the first step in trying to help people understand, not only the men who are going through it because they understand, but those who are watching, those who have individuals who are walking through some of these cases. And you're like, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with them is this is one of the most stressful, depressing situations they've ever been through in their lives, and they feel attacked and they don't have the solutions. They don't have the answers. One of the things I hear men say all the time is, if I knew the first time what I would go through, I would have done it differently. Because so now they're having to go back to fix cases that weren't done correctly the first time. We get a lot of calls like that, where they're having to go back and modify. They allowed supervised visitation just because it was thrown out there. There was no record, there was no nothing. And we have proof of those things, but they do it because they feel like that's the easiest way to the solution, right? To the end game. And I know Attorney Barkus has seen that. And then you never get off the supervised visitation because it wasn't intended for you to get off of it. And then before you know it, you're frustrated and you walk away from your children. And then you're one of those individuals online posting about the challenges you're having or why you can't see your children. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is interesting. We got a question here. I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna put it up here so we can see it. Let me see. So it says, then why do the courts, attorneys, guardian ad litem push to say they against each other? Do our children deserve to have a relationship with both parents? Why are lies and false claims accepted within the court and go unpunished? Okay.
That's good. That's an excellent question.
It is.
That is. As to the first part of it, courts are not, in my opinion, the appropriate model for conflict, because courts are about winning, losing. They are about adversarial. They are about cookie cutter solutions that do not fit the unique situations of families. They're just not built for this process. So you take people who are already in conflict, you put them in a greater conflict situation, you add to stress and anxiety, and you create this winner take all scenario, which does prompt people to do or say things that may or may not be accurate. And that is a big problem with the system. And I know a lot of people are saying tear it down. I've seen the Facebook pages. I understand that frustration. I'm not sure that that's something we're necessarily going to accomplish in a short span of time. And whenever my clients tell me something like that, I think, well, you have children that you want to see now. So I think we want to think more proactively. I mean, if you want to go through a 10-year plan of a revolution or something like that, perhaps you will pave the way for future generations. But if your goal is to be in your children's lives now, we've got to think about that. We've got to think about ways that you can navigate the court system in a more mindful manner, in a more calm manner, because you are set up to fail. You are, because the minute you act aggressive or the minute you show emotion, you're labeled as the problem, and you're labeled as needing supervised visits. You're labeled as high conflict. Labels are thrown at you that just make things worse. But there are ways to navigate that, and through work such as the work that Dr. Torri's doing, which I just find so amazing. The goal is to keep people out of court, because the real conflicts are not the conflicts that are being brought in front of the judge. And if we can find a way to do that, then we've eliminated a lot of this. We've eliminated a lot of the suffering, and we've brought you back to your children, which is the goal here.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, Attorney Barkus and I, she's been emailing me some things. I've been reading over them. I've been really busy, but her and I are really talking about a new way to bring mediation to the world, to the court system. We're not just on here talking just because I wanted to pick her for some random reason. We have a holistic approach to everything that we do, life, the work that we do, all of it, because the conflict is real. And I love what you said about the court system answering this question. This is a villain victim scenario. You know what I mean? It's like superhero versus, Lois Lane, and you got the bad guy, whoever that is at that point. In the Spider-Man movie or the Superman movie. That's what the court systems have become. And I get that call from individuals who are a part of certain groups, and they want to fight the courts, fight the judges, fight the attorneys. And it's just not advantageous. It is going to get you, like you said, down a long road, down a long 10-year, process, when we want you to see your children. And sometimes you have to suck it up and take the right approach. Now that's the key. And getting the right approach from the right person. I know a lot of dads just pick attorneys out of thin air. And we need you guys to do more research when you're picking attorneys. It's not the cheapest one that's going to work for you. And it's not the most expensive one that's going to work for you. It's going to be the one who actually have won cases similar to yours. And there's research you can do. You can just go online and look up those attorneys and see some of the things in the cases that they've won. But so often dads will just pick a family law attorney, especially the one who they can afford, and they get stuck with an agenda or a strategy that's not beneficial to them. And that is where I think so many of the challenges, they face so many challenges, and we have to, it's not cookie cutter. It's not one shoe, one size fits all. Each case is different. And when I'm talking to my clients and I'm putting them with attorneys, I'm paying attention to who the attorney happens to be and the cases they've won, and the client and what kind of case they have when I pair people together. I have some people who get real ridiculous and they're like, hey, can I meet the attorney first? No. I've been doing this long enough that I know what I'm doing. Almost like I'm a matchmaker for fathers and attorneys. No, you cannot meet the person first, because I've done a lot of work to know who could best handle, a case that's high conflict, or who wants to, for that matter, on a low bono, situation. So look, I've got, he or she is asking one more question. We're going to do one more, because I promised Attorney Barkus I was only going to take 30 minutes of her time. It says, we hear and share stories after stories and parents asking for help because of these issues. If this is a direct problem, then why doesn't the system fix it and make it work instead of doing what's in the best interest of the children, which is clearly a term that they use, but it's not always in the best interest of the children. I get what this person is asking. Do you want to answer it? And then I'll piggyback.
Sure. The short answer is the court does not know what's in the best interest of the children. And the judges that I have the greatest respect for will actually pretty bluntly and candidly tell you, I'm not the person to tell you how to raise this child. I'm a stranger. And even you want to know what happened with my kids. I've heard a lot in 20 years. The point is, the court cannot fix this, and looking to the court to fix it is perpetuating the very same problem that you're complaining about. The solutions truly lie within the individuals. We have it within ourselves to resolve these things, as impossible as that may seem. And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, yeah, right. What do you know? You don't know my situation. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of colorful comments on that. And you're right. I don't know your situation. I'm not saying I have a magic pill, a magic wand, a magic formula, but I can tell you that there are better ways to resolve conflict when people address the real conflict that's going on, rather than the conflict that's played out in court. Because I can tell you that the underlying conflict that is going on in these cases has nothing to do with the issues that you are presenting. And I know it will be very hard for you to believe me. Dr. Torri's nodding, so I know I've got some support on here.
Oh yeah.
But it's far deeper, it's more underlying, and that's where we're not going. The court will not go there. The court's not designed for that. Attorneys don't go there. This is the real work that you need to do, because what's going on is part of a pattern in your life. I can but guarantee you that.
Yes.
You are caught in a dynamic, you are caught in a pattern, and that's where you need to go for the solutions, not to the court.
Yeah, it's within yourself. It's why I started this out by talking about mindfulness, conflict resolution, and even that journaling. This is about you. And even in my book that I recently wrote, Daddy, Where Are You? People were like, one guy said last week, I never would read that by a woman and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, but you're still thinking about it from the villain victim perspective. Right. You're not thinking about it from a healing perspective. It literally says an instructional and healing guide for absent fathers, whether forced out or by choice, right? Mm-hmm. One person came in and said, no father's absent by choice. That's not true. Like, we have to stop putting our issues on everyone else's case.
Yes.
And what I love about what you said, even in this moment right here, just about how do you fix this? Well, it's not the court's job to fix it.
Right.
There's a place in this brokenness in your marriage, whether it was a marriage or breakup, that there were some things that you did along the way to create this level of high conflict. And we need to figure out what that is. Mm-hmm. Maybe, with my program, there are steps within it that helps with some of that. If you can hear that, that's my dog in the background. Wagging. He's having a conflict resolution moment with his little stuffed animal right now. He's shaking it and tearing it apart. He thinks he's not. But I think we need to really look inside ourselves and stop asking the courts to fix something that we created. Because the courts just see it as an opportunity to make some money. And then we get upset and say, oh, they're only after the money. And how can you ask someone who does not know you to have the best interests of your child
right
in their hands? They don't know you nor their child. One of my attorneys said to me, she said, family law cases are emotional, but family law is not.
True.
And that's the truth. It's just not. It's very much so cut and dry or at the judge's discretion. So they did just say the family courts and CPS need to be abolished. Simple as that. I think they also want you on their show, but I'll forward you the information, Attorney Barkus, if you want to do that or not. Facebook Live. So I thank you for allowing me to have you on and to do this for the first time. And I'm glad we got it done. I don't want to stay on all night. I want to give people some stuff to think about so we can come back another time and give them more to think about.
Absolutely.
Because it's time for people to come up with solutions and not just dysfunctional, generational, cyclical cycles without even facing their own truth. And I love the fact that you said that. See, I don't, as the host or the person, facilitating this, I don't always want to be the broken record to keep saying the same thing. You guys have heard it from somebody else. It's time to fix you. It's not always about the other person. A lot of times it's about you. So I'm Dr. Torri J, founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I have had amazing attorney Lori Barkus on. And Lori, can you give them your contact information? And I'll put it in here so that if anybody wants to reach out to you, they can do that.
Absolutely. My website is barkuslaw.com. And my telephone number is 720-638-0254.
0254. Okay, so I've put that in the comments. And so if any of you are in the Colorado or Florida, she practices in both Colorado and Florida, If you want to reach out to her and you have a case or you have questions that you want to ask her, or even have her on your show, then you can give her a call. Lori, thank you so much for tonight.
It was my absolute pleasure.
I will look forward to talking to you offline as usual. All right. You have a good night.
Looking forward to it too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.